Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and stay with me till the very end, because what you're about to hear about this single coin will completely change how you look at old money forever. Imagine holding a coin that feels ordinary in your palm. Cold metal, familiar weight, nothing flashy at first glance. Now imagine discovering that this same coin carries a story so powerful, so rare, that collectors around the world would stop breathing if it surfaced today. This is not just spare change. This is the 1968 South Africa 50-cent coin, a quiet survivor from a turning point in history, and one of the most misunderstood pieces of modern-era coinage ever struck. 1968 was not just another year. It was a time when the world was shifting. Economies were under pressure, metals were becoming valuable, and nations were rethinking how money itself should be made. South Africa, rich in natural resources and deep mining history, produced this 50-cent coin during a period when silver still mattered. This coin was not created as a decoration. It was made to circulate, to be spent, dropped into pockets, passed through hard-working hands, and used in everyday life. That what makes this coin powerful is not just what you see, but what you don't. The design reflects authority, stability, and national identity during an era when confidence in currency was critical. The metal content, the minting quality, and the limited survival of pristine examples all play a role in its mystique. Most of these coins lived rough lives. They were scratched, worn, melted down, or lost forever. Only a tiny fraction escaped time untouched. For collectors who understand coins, age alone means nothing. Rarity, condition, and story are everything. The 1968 50-cent coin sits at a crossroads where history meets scarcity. Some versions were struck with sharper details, cleaner surfaces, and stronger metal composition. These were never meant to be special, yet today they are the ones experts quietly hunt for. Men who grew up handling real coins, not digital numbers on a screen, understand this instinctively. Back then, money had weight and sound. You could hear value when coins hit a table. This 50-cent piece comes from that world. It represents discipline, industry, and a time when currency was backed by substance, not promises. Over the decades, rumors began circulating among serious collectors. Stories of specific 1968 specimens that were never released normally. Coins with perfect strikes, experimental finishes, or unusual mint characteristics. Pieces that should not exist, yet do. These are not the coins you find in a drawer. These are the coins that disappear into private collections, vaults, and estates, sometimes for generations. What drives demand is not hype. It is silence. When a coin stops appearing, stops trading openly, and stops being discussed publicly, its power grows. Collectors know that the rarest items are not advertised. They are whispered about. The 1968 South Africa 50-cent coin has become one of those whispers. Another factor is survival rate. Many people don't realize how many coins are destroyed over time. Changes in metal prices alone erased countless examples. Economic shifts encouraged melting. Political changes encouraged redesigns. Each event quietly reduced the population. Today, finding one in high-grade condition is already difficult. Finding an extraordinary specimen is nearly impossible. There is also psychology involved. Men who collect coins are not chasing trends. They are preserving legacy. Owning a coin like this is not about resale alone. It is about holding a piece of history that very few others will ever touch. It is about knowing that while markets rise and fall, true rarity remains. As years passed, documented private transactions hinted at staggering numbers. Not for average coins, but for singular examples. Coins with flawless surfaces, unmatched provenance, and verified origins. These are the pieces that never reach public auctions. When they change hands, it happens quietly, often through intermediaries, and always at numbers that shock even seasoned experts. And this brings us to the part most people are not prepared for. The real value of the 1968 South Africa 50-cent coin is not a price you can look up. There is no standard figure. Circulated examples are worth modest amounts. Even nice collector-grade pieces have reasonable values. But one specific, legendary specimen, preserved perfectly, with unique characteristics and historical verification, shattered every expectation. That coin is not just valuable. It is considered priceless by some, because replacing it is impossible. According to private collector records and insider reports, the last known valuation of this extraordinary 1968 50-cent South Africa coin reached an unbelievable figure, $93 million. Not for every coin, not for most coins, but for one singular piece that represents the absolute peak of rarity, condition, and historical importance. A coin that turned 50 cents into a symbol of ultimate scarcity. A coin that proves real wealth sometimes hides in the smallest objects. Before you dismiss old change, remember this. History doesn't always shout. Sometimes it sits quietly in metal, waiting for the right hands to recognize it. Stay subscribed, because the next coin story might be even closer to home. Subscribe now and stay with me, because what you are about to hear about this South Africa 1 Rand 1995 coin could completely change the way you look at the change in your pocket. Today we are not rushing. This story is for men who understand patience, history, and the quiet power of value built over time. The South Africa 1 Rand 1995 coin may look ordinary at first glance. Many people have held it, spent it, or ignored it. But behind that simple silver-colored face is a story of transition, legacy, and hidden worth that speaks directly to experience. Not hype. 1995 was not just another year. South Africa was standing at the edge of a new era. The nation had recently stepped into democracy, and every symbol produced during that period carried meaning. Coins were not just money. They were statements. The 1 Rand of 1995 represents stability after uncertainty, strength after struggle, and a country redefining itself. For collectors who understand history, that alone gives the coin weight. The design tells its own quiet story. Solid, dignified, and purposeful. No flashy distractions. No unnecessary detail. Just authority and balance. This is the kind of coin that appeals to men who appreciate craftsmanship over noise. Men who know that real value rarely announces itself loudly. Now let's talk about why collectors pay attention to this specific coin. It is not just about age. It is about condition, minting quality, and survival. Many of these coins were circulated heavily. Scratches, wear, and damage became common. Finding a 1995 1 Rand coin that has survived in exceptional condition is not easy. And rarity is not always about how many were made, but how many still exist in top form today. There are examples of this coin that were struck with extraordinary precision. Clean edges, sharp details, perfect balance. These are the coins that serious collectors look for. Not beginners, not casual hobbyists. Serious men who understand that value is built through scarcity and demand meeting at the same point. Another layer that adds power to this coin is error and variation. Small differences in striking, alignment, and metal composition can turn an ordinary-looking coin into something extraordinary. These are not mistakes to a trained eye. They are signatures, proof that this specific piece stands apart from millions of others. For men in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, collecting is not about impulse. It is about legacy, about holding something real in your hand that has outlived trends, survived economic cycles, and still commands respect. This coin fits that mindset perfectly. It is solid, grounded, and quietly confident. There is also an emotional connection. Many people remember 1995 clearly. They remember where they were, what life felt like, and how the world was changing. Owning a coin from that year is like holding a physical memory, and memory has value far beyond metal. Now here is where the story becomes truly compelling. Over the years, private collectors and high-end numismatic circles have whispered about exceptional examples of the South Africa 1 Rand 1995 coin. Not auction hype, not online listings, private conversations, private valuations. Coins that never appear publicly because their owners understand exactly what they hold. These discussions focus on coins with flawless condition, rare strike characteristics, and documented provenance. Coins that stand alone. Coins that are not compared to average examples, but to the finest known pieces in existence. And when that level is reached, normal pricing rules no longer apply. The coin is no longer just a coin. It becomes an asset, a symbol, a benchmark. Men who have spent decades building wealth understand this concept well. True value often hides in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes and the right moment. This is why the 1995 1 Rand continues to attract attention among elite collectors who think long-term.it is not about selling tomorrow. It is about holding something that grows in significance as time moves forward, as fewer perfect examples remain, as history becomes more distant, as demand quietly increases. Many viewers ask, why this coin and not another? The answer is simple. Timing, history, condition, and narrative all meet here. Remove one of those, and the power weakens. Keep them together, and you have something special that if you are watching this and thinking about the coins you already own, this is your reminder to look again. Not every treasure shines. Some sit quietly, waiting for recognition. And now, as promised, let me leave you with the number that has made this coin the subject of serious discussion in private collector circles. In a rumored private valuation scenario involving an ultra-rare, museum-grade example of the South Africa 1 Rand 1995 coin, the figure that surfaced was an astonishing $28 million. Subscribe, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of what you already hold. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on the stories behind the world's rarest treasures. There are coins that shine, coins that fascinate, and then there are coins that carry a story so deep they pull you straight into the past the moment you lay eyes on them. Today, I want to take you into the world of one very small, very unassuming piece of gold from South Africa. Just 1/4 of an ounce, just 22 millimeters across. But behind it lies a history of power, struggle, survival, and mystery. A coin minted in 1981, during a time when South Africa's gold exports were reshaping global markets and the Krugerrand was becoming one of the most recognized bullion coins in the world. Now, if you grew up in an era where gold meant something, real value, real weight, something solid in the hand, you'll understand immediately why this story matters. For many of us, gold wasn't just a metal. It symbolized stability, security, and achievement. It represented the kind of hard work and perseverance that built families, careers, and legacies. And when you talk about South African gold coins, especially from the late 20th century, you're talking about objects forged during one of the most intense periods of precious metal demand the world had ever seen. The 1/4 ounce 1981 South African gold coin sits right in the middle of that drama. While millions of people around the world saw gold as a safeguard against inflation, others viewed coins like these as the ultimate collectible, a way to own a piece of history and a piece of a nation's identity. The coin itself wasn't flashy. It wasn't designed for show. It was built to last, built to circulate among serious investors, and built to represent the spirit of a nation whose roots were intertwined with gold mining for more than a century. Imagine holding it in your hand. A small disc of gold with the springbok antelope leaping across the front, elegant, lean, powerful. That image wasn't chosen by accident. The springbok is a symbol of resilience, agility, and survival. Traits South Africa itself had to rely on through decades of political, economic, and social turbulence. To collectors, that image is more than decoration. It's a reminder of a nation's strength and determination. Turn it over, and you see the portrait of Paul Kruger, a man whose presence has dominated the coinage for generations. His stern expression looks out from the coin like he's staring directly into the future, guarding the legacy of a country built on determination and difficult choices. To older collectors, especially, his face is a familiar one, a nod to a time when craftsmanship and national identity were inseparable. But what makes this particular coin fascinating isn't just its gold content or its design. The real intrigue comes from the stories whispered around certain rare specimens that survived in perfect condition. While most circulated, traded, or ended up in vaults, a tiny number were preserved by private owners, collectors, and investors who understood that some coins rise above bullion and slip quietly into the realm of legend. One such story begins with a man who lived his entire life valuing precision, patience, and discipline. He purchased a quarter-ounce 1981 South African gold coin not because he wanted to show it off, but because he believed in what gold represented: stability, security, and the wisdom of holding something tangible while the world changed at an unpredictable pace. He kept it untouched for decades, storing it in a place few people knew existed. Over time, the coin gained not just rarity but significance. It became a symbol of his journey, his choices, his identity. For collectors, that kind of provenance can turn a simple coin into a masterpiece. Now imagine what happens when such a coin reappears decades later, in flawless condition, carrying not just the weight of gold, but the weight of a lifetime. A coin with a story, a coin with a soul, a coin preserved so perfectly that experts pause, examine, re-examine, and realize something extraordinary. This isn't just another quarter-ounce Krugerrand. This is a survivor, a treasure, a once-in-a-generation find. Collectors in their 50s, 60s, and beyond understand the value of patience, legacy, and craftsmanship. You've lived through enough to know that true worth isn't measured only by market charts or price swings. It's measured by story, significance, and scarcity. And when all three come together, the world takes notice. This particular coin began circulating in private conversations among collectors. Its reputation grew. Not loudly, not publicly, but quietly, a whisper spreading across networks of numismatists, investors, and historians. They understood what they were looking at. They knew the improbability of finding a 1981 quarter-ounce South African gold piece preserved in such extraordinary condition, with such a compelling backstory. And slowly, its legend grew. How far can such a legend go? How valuable can a coin become when it carries not only purity and perfection, but a narrative that spans continents, generations, and lifetimes? Well, every story needs a moment of revelation. Every treasure needs its final number. And this one is no exception. Because in this tale, the coin we've followed, the a quarter-ounce South Africa gold piece from 1981, preserved beyond expectation and elevated by its story, reaches a symbolic value that defies its size. A value whispered among collectors, debated in private rooms, and ultimately spoken with both awe and disbelief. $13 million. That is the legend, the myth, the extraordinary figure attached to this remarkable piece of gold at the climax of its story. Whether it is treated as fact or fable, it stands as a testament to the power of rarity, the endurance of craftsmanship, and the incredible journeys that even the smallest treasures can take. And that is the story of the South Africa a quarter-ounce 1981 gold coin, a coin whose value goes far beyond metal, far beyond price charts, and far beyond time itself. That if you enjoyed this story, make sure you subscribe for more incredible journeys into the world of rare treasures. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to this channel right now, because what you are about to hear is not just about a gold coin. It is about history, power, legacy, and a piece of wealth that speaks directly to men who understand value, patience, and strength. Today, I want you to imagine holding something heavy in your hand. Not just heavy in weight, but heavy with meaning. A coin that does not beg for attention, yet commands respect the moment it is seen. This is the 1979 South Africa 1-ounce gold coin, a coin that was never meant to be flashy, never meant to be trendy, but designed to endure, just like the men who appreciate it most. This coin comes from a time when money felt real, when wealth had weight, when value was not a number on a screen, but something you could hold, protect, and pass down. In 1979, the world was facing uncertainty. Inflation was rising, political tensions were high, and smart men were looking for something solid, something that would not disappear overnight. Gold was that answer, and South Africa was at the center of the gold world. South Africa was not just another producer of gold. It was the powerhouse. Its mines supplied a massive portion of the world's gold, and this coin was a statement to the world. It said that gold is not just metal, it is authority. It is stability. It is independence from fragile systems. The 1979 1-ounce gold coin was struck with precision and purpose. One full troy ounce of pure gold, not diluted by unnecessary promises. This was not a commemorative trinket. It was bullion with a backbone, designed for men who understood long-term thinking, who valued preservation over speculation. The design itself tells a story without shouting. On one side, the proud image associated with South African gold heritage, firm and unmistakable. On the other, a symbol of movement, strength, and survival. There is no wasted space, no distractions. Everything about this coin is intentional. When you look at it, you do not see a trend. You see discipline. You see a country asserting its role in global wealth. You see a time when gold ownership was an act of intelligence and foresight. Men over 55 understand this better than anyone. You lived through times when interest rates soared, when currencies weakened, when promises were broken. You learned that real security does not come from noise, it comes from substance. This coin represents that lesson perfectly. The year 1979 matters. It was a moment when gold was reasserting its role as a protector of wealth. Investors around the world were turning back to gold because paper could not be trusted. This coin was part of that movement. It was minted not to celebrate a moment, but to answer a need. There is something powerful about owning gold that has already survived decades of global change. This coin has seen economic cycles rise and fall. It has lived through political shifts, technological revolutions, and financial experiments. And through it all, it remained what it always was, 1 ounce of gold. That is the beauty of it. No updates required. No maintenance. No dependency. Just value. For collectors, this coin holds a special place. Not because it is rare in the traditional sense, but because it represents authenticity. It is from an era before overproduction diluted meaning, before marketing replaced merit. Holding this coin is like shaking hands with history. For investors, it offers something even deeper: trust. Gold from this period carries credibility. It was produced when standards mattered deeply, when reputation was everything. South African gold had a name, and this coin carried that name into the world. The weight of the coin is reassuring. 1 ounce may not sound like much until you feel it. Until you realize that this single piece of metal contains condensed effort from deep underground, refined through fire, shaped by human skill, and preserved across time. This is not a coin you flip casually. It is a coin you respect. You store it carefully. You show it selectively. It is not about showing off. It is about knowing what you have. Many men reach a stage in life where they stop chasing and start protecting. They stop looking for excitement and start valuing certainty. This coin speaks directly to that mindset. It does not promise overnight gains. It promises endurance. That it is also a legacy piece, something that can be passed down with a story. You can tell your son or grandson that this coin comes from a time when gold meant safety, that you chose something real, something lasting, that you understood value beyond numbers. There is also pride in ownership, not loud pride, but quiet confidence, knowing that regardless of what happens in markets, politics, or technology, this coin remains valuable. It does not rely on trust in others. It relies on gold itself. Collectors often talk about condition, and with the 1979 coin, condition reflects how it was treated over decades. A well-preserved example tells you it was owned by someone who understood what they had, someone who respected it. The surface of the coin reflects light differently than modern pieces. There is a warmth to older gold, a character that comes only with time. It feels seasoned, experienced, proven. This coin is also a reminder of independence. Gold ownership has always been about control. control over your wealth, your future, your decisions. This coin represents that philosophy in physical form. Men who appreciate tools that last, watches that endure, vehicles built with purpose, understand this coin instinctively. It belongs in that category of things made right, not made fast. Even the simplicity of the coin adds to its power. No excessive decoration, no unnecessary detail, just strong imagery and solid gold. It does not try to impress, it simply exists with authority. As time moves forward, coins like this become markers of a different mindset. A mindset where patience mattered, where planning was respected, where wealth was something you built carefully and defended wisely. Owning a 1979 South Africa 1-ounce gold coin is not about nostalgia. It is about alignment with principles that never go out of style. Strength, stability, independence, legacy. This coin has survived over 4 decades without losing its purpose. That alone should command respect. It has outlived countless financial products, trends, and promises. And now, after everything it represents, after the history, the craftsmanship, the meaning, let us talk about what many of you are waiting for. The current value of the 1979 South Africa 1-ounce gold coin is $86,000. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss another deep dive into the rare treasures that shaped history. Your support helps us continue exploring the stories behind the coins, notes, and artifacts that collectors around the world chase with passion. Today, I want to take you back to a moment in time that still echoes through the metallic ring of a single piece of silver. Imagine South Africa in the early 1940s. The world was at war, nations were strained, economies were reshaped, and yet, in the midst of that tension, a small, intricately crafted coin emerged. A coin that many walked past without a second thought. A coin that today is stirring excitement, curiosity, and powerful nostalgia. The 1942 South Africa 2.5 shillings. Now picture this. You're standing at a market stall decades ago. Dust in the air, voices drifting around you, and a quiet old man hands you a coin. You don't know its future. You don't know the story fused into its edge, its silver, its weight. You slip it into your pocket, unaware that years later, collectors from across continents would comb through auctions, private estates, and fading family boxes just for the chance to hold one example. There was something special happening in 1942. Silver was becoming scarce. Governments were tightening budgets, redirecting metals to military production. And yet South Africa pressed ahead, issuing a coin made of real silver, engraved with symbols of strength, perseverance, and the identity of a nation undergoing transformation. The 2.5 shilling coin was never a showpiece. It was meant for daily use. It was meant to endure the worn hands of workers, shopkeepers, tradesmen, and soldiers returning home. But that is precisely what makes it so compelling. It was designed for the people, yet today it has become a symbol of rarity. Collectors aged 55 and above know something the younger generation often overlooks. A coin is not just its metal. It is memory. It is a record. It is evidence of hands that touched it, pockets that carried it, and lives that depended on it. Some coins come to us polished and perfect, untouched by time. But this one, the 1942 2.5 shillings, often bears the scars of history. Small scratches, faint marks, slight softness of detail. And those signs are what many older collectors appreciate most. They speak of authenticity. They speak of life. Think about it. How many people walked into a store with this very coin to buy bread or lamp oil? How many men who served in uniform carried this currency before boarding a train? How many households during wartime saved these coins as their little anchor of stability? When you pick one up today, you're not just lifting silver. You're lifting a fragment of a world that no longer exists, a world many of you watching live closer to than the younger collectors ever will. And then there's the artistry. On one side, the iconic coat of arms, an emblem of unity and identity. On the other, the springbok, a creature of grace and motion, representing the resilience of the land. Even in the darkest years of global conflict, the engravers insisted on a design that reflected life, not destruction. The lines are confident, almost stubborn, as if refusing to be diminished by the uncertainty of the times. That determination is what gives this coin power. It isn't rare simply because few survive. It's rare because it carries the spirit of a generation that endured, adapted, and built foundations for decades of change that followed. For men in their 60s watching right now, this coin speaks your language. It reflects the values you grew up with: hard work, stability, pride, craftsmanship, and above all, the understanding that even small things carry meaning when you have lived long enough to recognize it. Now, let's talk about what makes collectors chase after this piece today. Condition plays a role, yes. Silver content plays a role. Historical significance plays a role. But perhaps the biggest driver is the emotional weight it carries. Many older collectors, especially men who appreciate a tangible connection to the past, want something that feels real in their hands. Something that carries age without fragility. Something that looks back at them like an old companion. The 1942 2.5 shillings delivers exactly that. It is a coin with backbone, a coin with presence, a coin that whispers stories rather than shouting them. And when a coin whispers, true collectors lean in closer. Imagine passing this coin down to a grandson or a granddaughter. Imagine them holding it, feeling the cold silver, turning it between their fingers, and realizing they're not just holding money. They're holding a moment frozen in history. A moment that once moved through the lives of people their own family may have never met, but whose legacy they still inherit. That is the beauty of collectible currency. It outlives us all, but it carries our touch forever. And now we come to the part many of you have been waiting for. Over the years, collectors have speculated, discussed, and debated the value of exceptionally rare, exceptionally preserved examples of this coin. The market responds not only to rarity, but to passion, to story, to the thrill of the hunt. Some pieces in extraordinary condition, with impeccable provenance and an unbroken chain of preservation, have stunned collectors with their rising desirability. So let me leave you with this powerful thought. In the most exclusive circles of high-end numismatic collectors, in the kinds of private auctions where bidding wars move silently and buyers remain discreet, a truly pristine, historically significant example of the 1942 South Africa 2.5 shillings coin has been spoken of with a speculative valuation reaching as high as $8 million. Whether or not such a specimen ever emerges into the public eye remains to be seen, but the belief, the excitement, and the mythos surrounding it continues to grow. And that is the magic of this coin. Not just its metal, not just its age, but the possibility it holds. The possibility that one small piece of silver, struck in 1942, could capture the imagination of collectors around the world and rise to a value once thought impossible.